Yeah. All right. Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to a regular meeting of the Road Town Board for March 8th, 2022. And ask the Deputy Clerk to please call the roll for attendance.
Councilmember Stewart.
Here.
Councilmember Noonan.
Here.
Councilmember Van Tassel.
Here.
Councilmember Donahue.
Here.
Supervisor Kuzner.
Here. And everyone please rise for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, everyone. First item on the agenda this evening is approval of minutes. And we have one set of minutes for February 25th, 2022, which is the audit meeting for that date. I do not have any changes. I don't know if any other board members have changes.
I was not present, so I'm going to abstain.
Someone like to move their adoption.
Motion to approve February 25th.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries 4 yeses and 1 abstention. All right, we're gonna stand at ease because I just learned the door is locked.
The door was locked. I was able to get in because the key. Somebody was out.
I think the other one, I don't know if the other one was unlocked.
So here, Mr. Kyle was trying to get this door, and then he had but down to the other end, just trying to get the other door.
All righty, we were just at ease after we learned that one of the doors to town hall was not unlocked. We have taken care of that issue. The only business that has transpired is the approval of minutes for February 25th, 2022, which was the audit meeting, and it was approved with 4 yeses and 1 abstention. Next item on the agenda, and item number 2, is the employee handbook. And as the board knows, we have been working intermittently to over the years to update the employee handbook. It's come to the point now with changes in state and federal law requirements for employers, municipal employers, that is out of date at this point in time, and it needs to be updated. I know that Council Member Van Tassel met with representatives of GTM Payroll, which handles the payroll for the town of Monroe. They do offer a service. You want to talk about that a little bit?
It can't be fine.
Sure. Councilman will provide a brief update on that conversation, and we do have a proposal from GTM Payroll. So,
Sure. No, thank you, Supervisor. As you may recall, those that were on the board, when we engaged the services of GTM, they weren't just for payroll, but they're also a company that handles HR related, including things such as this. So one of the interests we had when going through that proposal or request for proposal processes of choosing GPM, it was because of their breadth of services. And, so we were back to the table as we've now launched payroll services and electronic timekeeping to talk to them about the next potential project, and that's the updating of the handbook. So they do work for a lot of organizations. They're experts in the space, and they have employees that are dedicated to this part of the business, not only for other municipalities, but specifically for other towns that also have bargaining units. So they address and can address the concerns that we would have from the perspective of knowing how to help us structure a handbook. And it becomes electronically available in the existing portal for all the employees, and we have the ability to have electronically sign off. They charge a flat fee to work us through that process. The first year, it's a $2,500 fee. And that's a turnkey solution. They'll handle as many revisions as we want to work through the process to get it done. They've given in the statement of work a detailed scope of work. But then the real value, I think, in my opinion, for the town, is that then every year thereafter, for $750, they'll also maintain it for us. So keeping up on all these regulations and the fact rapidly changing nature of that business, many companies are finding value. Many organizations are finding value in using a service that is a professional service that does this. And so we continue to engage with them, and they presented the proposal that the board members have had.
And thank you, Councilman. And I've had an opportunity to review the scope of work. I believe all members of the board have received a copy of it. My recommendation would be to move forward on it this evening. I would certainly entertain comments from other board members.
Alan and I talked about it this afternoon, and we both received a cut, in this email, this memo from Jeffrey talks about in early 2021. We produced a draft of the quote-unquote new handbook, and it just needs so many revisions. One of the things we discussed, it would take us an eternity to go through it and rewrite it. I think this would be the best way to check this off the list and help our department heads with staff, issues and employee handbook related materials. I support it.
Any other comments? Hearing none. So it sounds like the board would like to move forward on this evening.
I know myself.
Okay, I would. So in that case, obviously we have to move some money around for that. My recommendation would be for a resolution to be offered that essentially states that the town board is committed to being in compliance with state and federal labor laws and regulations, and the employee handbook for the town of Monroe needs critical updates to remain in compliance with state and federal labor laws and regulations. And the resolution should state that the town board transfer $2,500, the cost of the service, from the general fund contingent account A 1990.4, which has an available balance of $34,610.49 as of February 28, 2022, to general fund account A 1620.4, and that it be further resolved that the town of Monroe engage the services of GTM Payroll Services Incorporated to develop, edit, update the employee handbook for the town. The fees for these services are to be paid from account A 1620.4 in an amount not to exceed $2,500, and maintenance of the handbook will be revisited on an annual basis.
Second.
Any discussion on it?
Long overdue, and appreciate the support.
Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thanks for reaching out on that. I know it's been discussed for a number of years. It'd be nice to get this buttoned up. Wait a minute. That's great. The next item on the agenda item number 3, which is the water department. A couple items. First thing I want to do is we actually had our closing with Hillman Brothers, specifically Lance Hillman this morning. And I want to profusely thank Mr. Hillman for his generosity in donating the land to the town of Monroe for our sewer project. He has worked hand in hand with the town since the district was created. And I want, on behalf of the town, to express the town's appreciation for all that help that he provided to the town. There was no cost involved with the donation of the land. And it's in a location where the pump is required for the force main off of Route 9 on his property. And we finalized the closing this morning. You know, one of the things that by him working with the town in such a fashion, not only did we save on the cost of having to purchase the property, had the town had to do a change order on the project as a result of having to have a delay in the project. It would have cost the project hundreds of thousands of dollars. And, you know, that's something that should be recognized. So I want to thank Mr. Hillman for working with us on that. And we'll be providing him a copy with all the closing documents once they've been filed with Saratoga County. Next issue, first of all, before we get there, I want to make the board aware that our water superintendent received correspondence, as did myself. I think the town board was CC'd on it from the New York State Health Department, dated February 16, 2022, in relation to the water supply emergency plan update, cybersecurity, vulnerability assessment. I'll just read the first paragraph. Is there, Mr. Michael Mooney, New York State Department of Health recently received proposed revisions to your water supply emergency plan, which include your water systems vulnerability assessment, VA, and emergency response plan, or ERP. Based on the submission in accordance with public health law, section 1125, the department has determined that the water supply emergency plan, including the VA and ERP, must be revised before final department approval and filing can occur. And then it spells out what we have to do to complete our emergency plan requirements. And this must be filed in the Glens Falls office by April 30th, 2022. So our water superintendent is working on that. Yeah. The next item under water department is with the consolidation of the water districts, we have done mailings, actually a couple of mailings. First one was an indication of the new billing structure for all water users. And I think I indicated at the last board meeting, on the first mailing, we had received some inaccurate information from Saratoga County GIS information. So we had sent out letters erroneously to some residents that are not in water districts. I think the number is 19. We have since notified them that they are not in the water district and therefore will not be required to pay minimum fees or user fees. Also along those lines, in consolidating the water district, we found that we have properties that are contained within the water district that do not have infrastructure running in front of their property, which makes them unable to take advantage of the infrastructure. Yet they were notified that they have minimum bills to pay. And at the last board meeting, it was decided that we'd refer it to the water committee for recommendations on how we would like to handle that. I can tell you that consultation with the highway superintendent, or I'm sorry, the water superintendent, he has some recommendations that he passed on to the board, and I think they are included probably in some recommendations that the water committee is going to make tonight. So I know council members Van Tassel and Noonan are members of the water committee. I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Yeah, so we the water committee, inclusive of conversations with the water superintendent, as well as feedback from lots of, from some residents that have some concern. Probably haven't talked to all of them. There's certainly, at least from the water committee's position, a recommendation that if someone has property inside a water district that does not have access to any infrastructure would either be water to their house or access to fire hydrants within 1,000 feet, then they certainly should be considered for removal from the district. That would be an easy recommendation for the water committee to make. I think there's a fork in the road then as to does being within 1,000 feet of a fire hydrant afford property owners value, and should they be subjected to the fees, is something that the water committee today thinks that that answer is yes, but our recommendation is to afford us at least another period of time between now and the next meeting to conduct a study, and that study would include us working with the water superintendent to gather information from surrounding towns and municipalities and see how they address that. You know, we did, Councilman Noonan spoke with I believe the fire chief or somebody from the fire department. Yeah, and they had conveyed that they had at least equal to or greater than 1,000 feet of hose on every truck. So there's some tangible value to property owners that have some portion of municipal infrastructure near their property. So that's where we stand today as a recommendation from the water committee. I think that if we could get at least another period of time between now and the next meeting to complete that study, we would come back with final recommendations on that component, as well as some process that we could put in place that will allow those that could be removed from the district to move through that process quickly and have it documented with some sort of structure. So, Councilman Newman?
I don't have much more to add. I mean, that would summarize most of our conversation about this issue. It just didn't seem like we had to think too hard about it. If folks had no access to water and they were beyond a certain distance, they should be included through receiving these bills.
Yeah, in consultation with the town engineer and our water superintendent, the areas that this is primarily an issue of concern are at the end of Jackson Road, properties on Jackson Road at the end, and along whatever road.
I am one of the owners.
Yeah, and so this is not a hard number, but we received an estimate to install service infrastructure to those 15 properties. We're looking at almost $500,000.
The problem is, you have to get the right of ways. There's no right of way to those properties, put utility through it. We only have internal access and egress. That is it.
Right.
We've explored it 25 years ago and found, at the time, the fire company wanted 3 hydrants and a minimum 6-inch line to afford fire protection. And when we got all done, we couldn't put it in, we didn't own the right of way.
Right.
That was the problem.
Yeah, so, number one, the town hasn't budgeted, that kind of money for infrastructure extension. And number two, you know, because the infrastructure is not available at this point in time, obviously, you know, it's not fair to ask the property owners to be paying for something they can't access.
Thank you.
So I agree with the water committee's recommendation. You know, I think we should get with, have the committee get with our water superintendent, flesh out, you know, what the language of the policy would look like, run it by the attorney for the town, share it with the board members, allow them to weigh in on it. Hopefully get it to a final form and we can take action on our next board meeting. I have told property owners who have received those bills to not do anything with them at this time. I know there's a concern that they may be charged late fees, et cetera. We're not going to do that. We're not going to take any action on it until we have the issue.
Please quick aware of it. I had a conversation with Mr. Mooney myself. I was aware of the fire department getting involved, and in the end, it's just not a probability. It's between the right of way and the distance, and I mean, the closest hydrant is 4/10 of a mile away through wetlands, protected wetlands. And when the district was originally drawn out, the survey crew very quickly did draw their own survey line. They went by the water's edge. That encompassed these properties into that district by doing so. Whether it was hastily done to save time, but again, the issue is protected wetlands and no right of way. So the board is aware of that problem.
Yeah, so we'll get it ironed out. Obviously, we're not acting on it tonight,
Thank you.
but we intend to wrap it up pretty quickly.
Thank you.
All right. So that's all I have on that issue. Also on the water department, we have we've received. I think you were working on the cyber information.
Yeah, okay. It's referring to additional security.
Yeah. If you want to talk
I can update that. Yeah, so we're in the process of gathering multiple quotes to add some additional layers of security around Nolan Road, water department. I guess headquarters mostly, because that's where all of the SCADA equipment resides. So we should have those before the next board meeting. If that was possible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think we received correspondence from the EPA along the way. We also received from the water department, I think it was forwarded from the town clerk's office to Mike Mooney, our water superintendent, information regarding the New York State Low-Income Household Water Assistance Program. And I think all the board members got a copy of this one, clerk's office. It's from the Office of Temporary Disability Assistance. And there's some grant funding opportunities. The water superintendent has reviewed it. His recommendation at this time is to hold off until they provide information on the application and then take it out at that time. So I hope the water committee has a copy of it, but will be at the time that the state comes up with the regulations for the program. I expect we'll be redoing it again. And then the last item I have for Water Department is in relation to an IMA agreement with Saratoga County, specifically Saratoga County, and through them, the Saratoga County Sewer District Commission. As everyone knows, we've been working diligently to ensure that the town has the necessary capacity for sewer and affordable rate, not only for today, not only for tomorrow, but well into the future. Negotiations with the city are at a standstill, so the town has been working diligently for an alternative, an affordable alternative, and working with Saratoga County. They would very much want to have the business of the town of Monroe for many different reasons: economic development, growth, more users. And so the Saratoga County Sewer District Commission passed a resolution, voted unanimously in support of a infrastructure that would tie into where the county currently, system currently stops in the town of Wilton. I think it's about a 5-mile distance from here. And so the board members should have before them a resolution and a IMA agreement that spells out that the county will partner. Basically, I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version, that the county will partner with the town of Monroe to extend the county infrastructure here to our current project out here, and will provide funding within budgeted amounts from the county. The proposal with our engineers is approximately $9.3 million, and looking very carefully at the offer from the city of Glens Falls versus going south to Saratoga County. It's actually more affordable for our ratepayers to go south. So that is the reason for the town board moving in that direction. And we have a financial commitment from Saratoga County, and this will not require any additional debt that hasn't already been approved by the ratepayers for our sewer district. So there's anything else in that, Councilor?
No.
So with that, we have a resolution that I would ask the deputy clerk to read, and members of the board to move for discussion. If she has.
I do. Town of Monroe resolution authorizing the supervisor to enter into an intermunicipal agreement with Saratoga County. Whereas the town of Monroe and Saratoga County are interested in partnering to strengthen the town and county sanitary sewer infrastructure as required to promote economic development and groundwater resource protection. And whereas the town of Monroe and Saratoga County desire to enter into an agreement setting forth the terms and responsibilities of each municipality. And whereas the town of Monroe created Sewer District 1, Extension 5 to promote economic development and groundwater resource protection. And whereas Sewer District 1, Extension 5 currently discharges sanitary sewer flows to the City of Glens Falls wastewater treatment plant for treatment. And whereas additional sanitary sewer treatment capacity must be obtained on an economically reasonable basis for long-term operation of and rate sustainability within Sewer District 1, Extension 5. And whereas the town of Monroe has been unable to obtain an economically reasonable treatment capacity commitment from the City of Glens Falls, and whereas the town of Monroe has obtained a long-term treatment capacity from Saratoga County Sewer District Number 1, and whereas a connection to the county sanitary system would avoid the costs associated with the purchase of reserve capacity from the City of Glens Falls as originally contemplated. within the map plan and report prepared for the creation of Monroe Sewer District Number 1, Extension 5. And whereas Saratoga County has determined that it will be mutually beneficial and in the general public interest to connect Sewer District 1, Extension 5 to the county collection and treatment system, hereafter referred to as the county connection. And whereas Saratoga County Board of Supervisors has agreed to provide the town with grant funds sufficient to evaluate, design, permit, and partially construct the county connection. And whereas the town of Monroe has entered into an agreement with the Burge Group for professional engineering services required for the county connection. And now therefore be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby directed to authorize professional engineering and legal services to proceed as necessary for the completion of the county connection. And be it further resolved by the town board of the town of Monroe hereby authorizes the town supervisor to execute the intermunicipal agreement with Saratoga County and the town sewer district 1 extension 5. And on a motion by,
You can hold that part.
okay.
So, someone wish to move the resolution for discussion
Motion to approve.
Second.
and under discussion.
I personally was involved in some of the discussions with the city. I still think there's some opportunity potentially to work out some agreement with the city, but at the end of the day, having, in the best case scenario, we end up having 2 relationships, but there's just no indication that I could get that was going to result itself in anything favorable. And so keeping it within the county and moving to the infrastructure that's available through the county to me just makes a lot of sense. And to your point you made earlier, there's no additional expense that hasn't already been approved through the project that's on the table. So even if things work out with the city with some capacity, that would give us redundancy, which is always a good thing to have. We have that with our water today. We take water from Queensbury and we take water from the county. So there could be 2 passes at the end of the day, but we got a very clear message from the city that we won't have answers in time to not make a decision, so we're kind of put in a box. And it was very clear that the position they're taking is different than the position that we had, the relationship we had before.
Yeah, and just to be clear, we will still have a contract with the city of Penn Falls, but we're capped under the terms of that at 190,000 gallons a day. We're not anywhere near that current level of capacity, but if we exceed that, there's exorbitant penalties and costs. $6, which in our conversations, we heard that the city is actually doing a study to see the value of that service to municipalities, and the phrase was used, it may be higher than that. So, we have an obligation. I committed to the residents in the district that we would do all we could to ensure that we made the rates as affordable as we could, and this is a part of that effort.
Yeah, I think we ought to be clear that we actually put ourselves in this position. We had a contract with the city of Glens Falls from 2011 to 2021 to buy 1 million gallons of capacity at a set rate. It was certainly much lower during those 10 years than it is now. We let that contract expire. We didn't take advantage of that contract. Once the contract expired, the rules changed. Just like when you go to price driving. The milk's on sale on Sunday, you're not gonna, until Sunday, you don't get the same price on Monday. They reevaluated it, and of course the price went up. We didn't take advantage of that during those 10 years. We put ourselves in this position, say that the city hasn't negotiated in good faith. The city has negotiated in good faith. We didn't take advantage of that 10-year period by the capacity we needed. So we put ourselves in this position, and I think we're getting a little bit ahead of the game here. We don't even know what we're going to need for capacity. You know, we have a building, they will come project going on. We have taxpayers in the sewer district that are gonna have this debt for 30 years. Millions and millions of dollars. So I do want to give them some relief. But the thing is too, how much more are we gonna gamble on this project? We have millions of dollars to gamble now, and to say that it isn't gonna cost the taxpayers any more money, sure it is. Whether it's federal money, county money, state money, or local town money, it's still taxpayer dollars, and I'm not willing to gamble anymore. I think we should take a more measured approach, you know, and see where we're gonna be before we go out here and sign contracts and start, you know, putting millions of dollars up front, you know, to get the capacity, when we don't even know what we're gonna need. So I am against this right now. Somewhere down the line, if we see development, you know, and God, you know, I just have so many concerns over there, with the building there with something. I don't see anything coming over there. We've got this thing ready to go, and it's gonna be, you know, online here pretty soon. And I asked the building department today, is there anything on the drawing report? There isn't. You know, so it's just my gut feeling that if this was such a good deal, and if these people are gonna come with the thing just about ready to open up, that they'd be here by now, trying to get their plans in order, get their ducks in a row. I just don't see it happening. Like I said, maybe somewhere down the road, as the development comes, yes, it might be the smart way to go down to the county. But right now, I think we have to take a more measured approach and see exactly what we're gonna need, rather than throw 10 more millions of taxpayer dollars on a bill that they will done project. That's all I got.
Thank you, Councilman. That's actually the exact line of thinking that got us in this position. I do have to comment on some of the points you attempted to make because they're highly inaccurate. We
You better talk common sense.
I have the floor, Councilman. I didn't interrupt you. Can I please?
Then speak me like you speak to the rest of the council people. Don't talk down.
Councilman.
Don't talk down.
Councilman, I'll point out all the lies you just indicated. So you say that I imagine the town board, which you're a member of, put us in this position. That's totally inaccurate. We've been negotiating in good faith for a number of years with the city of Glens Falls. The COVID pandemic hit. The city of Glens Falls, like many municipalities, shut down. There wasn't back and forth going on. The buildings were closed. We continued to work with the city when we received responses. And quite frankly, I think it's financially irresponsible to accept a worst case scenario for our ratepayers. So I do have a question for you, Councilman, because I know you want to continue to speak on this topic. What do you suggest? Do you suggest we take the city's current offer? Is that what you recommend?
I think we have to look and see what we need for capacity before we make any moves. We have no idea right now how much capacity we're gonna need. We have no idea.
I can tell you what we need right now, based on the projects which you, I don't know who you're talking to in the building department. Biochar was neg decked yesterday, $12 million project. It's going to be a big user of sewer in our industrial park. We've got tentative approval of Hoffman Car Wash, a huge user for capacity, approved, but they can't move forward until we guarantee them capacity. So we do have projects. They're knocking on our doors. They're being approved by the planning board with predicated on the fact that we have capacity. Now, we have apartments that are going to be built. They've already been approved. They need another 30,000 gallons of capacity. So we need capacity. And we have growth. Oh, the project is rattled off. Is in the sewer district. One project. You know how big a project that is? What's the capacity?
You know, the thing is let me just touch on one thing that you said about the COVID and things being shut down. Life didn't stop during COVID. Municipalities, including ourselves, had Zoom meetings. We have telephones that we can use back and forth to negotiate these things. And there was nothing to negotiate. It was a signed contract. It wasn't negotiated. It was spelled right out what you would pay from year to year for the capacity, and we didn't pull the trigger. I don't blame Cole. I'm sorry, I don't buy it.
Well, you're also the same council member that said that we should be taking the deal with the city that they offered us. And hell to hell with what our people, you were elected to represent the people in town of Monroe, not the city right here. And
But the
you
city
want,
shouldn't get
and you want
to
to, so
detriment
maybe you should move to Glens Falls
of
because you're all for supporting them. I'll tell you what, I'm here to support the residents of our town. I'll continue to do that as long as I'm in this seat.
Gambles for money.
Any other comments?
The only other comment, don't want to debate with Councilman Donahue, you're entitled to your opinion.
Thank you.
That said, I do take, I do have some current concerns with some of the statements because they were highly inaccurate. I'll leave it at that.
You and I can talk.
We can certainly have a discussion around that, but to portray all of what you said to be factual to now the public is maybe something you should get us more.
These are my observations.
That's fair if they're your observations, and again, you're entitled, and I respect the right you have as a board member. So I'd be happy to chat with you on that. So that's the only comment I had. But I do know there's a lot of other projects that are in motion, and we're not talking about capacity for just the Route 9 corridor that cannot be lost on anybody. We're talking about the entire system, which is the entire town, not just Route 9. It's anybody that taps into that sewer. As you know, it continues down Bluebird Road for environmental impact concerns that existed, and now potential growth of residential. So there's
I also know that when they did a referendum running down Bluebird Road down that way, the people in that area were going.
Well, unfortunately, as you know, New York State and the environmental impact study showed that it was detriment to the water tables in that area. So anyways, yeah, we didn't want to that.
Sure. Thanks, Alan.
Any other comments?
I'd just like to add that I'm happy we're at this point now, looking to go south. Do not see this as a gamble with our taxpayers' money. I don't think any just part of the discussion we have ever had about this was a gamble. And I'm looking forward to the growth that we have going down Route 9 for generations. Again, this is well, we've got a lot of 10-year fixes here, I feel like, in the past for the town of Monroe, and those 10 years have come and gone many times, and we're hoping to have, you know, multi-generational fixes going forward. So I'm happy that we're in the spot to be able to look at this with the commitment from Saratoga County.
I guess that's all I would add at this point, is that it's having the support of the county, having some of the other options of the federal funding that's out there. That if there was a time to look at it, now would be the time to do it. This isn't gonna be just the on-taking of the town of Monroe, it's also gonna be with the support of the county. And that is a unique stance we have for this current one before us. So I think to completely not take up on the opportunity to look into this and go forward with the evaluation of it, the design, would be a real loss at this point. So I definitely support moving forward where we currently stand.
Thank you. And just a reminder, if everyone has read the map plan report, it clearly spells out that it's cheaper to go to become part of Saratoga County Sewer District number 1 than it is to go north. And at least through the Board of Supervisors in Saratoga County, this town, through the supervisor, will have a say in our future when it comes to rivers. And we have no say across the river in Warren County. It's take it or leave it. And I think that does a disservice to our residents. And quite frankly, I don't support proposals that are more expensive than the ones that we have before us. Any other comment? No. If not, you got a motion in a second. Yeah. Call all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 4-1 with council member Donahue opposed. Do we have any other, we're not taking the action on the automatic because that's included in the resolution? I think that's all I have for water. Next item on the agenda is transfer station. We've got a couple items. The first one is the purchase of 2 tires for the loader. If the board recalls, we did previously purchase 2 tires. Now there's a request to purchase tires for the rear of the loader. Through our procurement policy, we received 3 quotes. The first one is from Adirondack Tire, an amount of $2,677.50. That's the installed price. We also got a price from Moore's Tire Sales in Albany on the amount of $1,814, but they do not do installs, so we'd have to pay for that. And then the third price is from Warren Tire in the amount of $2,725, and that is installed. The recommendation is to go with Adirondack Tire, and there's a note here that the price includes tire sealant with installation, and this money would be drawn from account TS 8160.4, which has a current balance of $127,413.30 as of February 28th.
Second, Gary, let me comment.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, so I would just absolutely support going forward with the Adirondack Tire. I was down there yesterday. Our highway superintendent was also present, was down there. The tire issue is causing more issues and potentially putting the transmission at risk as it's locking off in the differential, if I'm speaking correctly. And I think just including the sealant with that year machine's big. So just being on the transfer station on my end, and I believe speaking with Councilmember Donahue before, we would definitely recommend going with the Adirondack Tire with the sealant. I spoke correctly, Councilman Donahue. Yeah. So that would be my recommendation from the transfer station on the machine is to go forward with those 2 back tires. For that Adirondack tire.
So someone like to move that?
Make a motion to spend the $2,677.50 for installation and tire sealant from Adirondack Tire for 9 months.
Have a second. Any discussion? Further discussion?
No, just to add, I remember this discussion when we came up, we talked about the other 2 tires, but the request then was only for 2 tires, so I'm happy that at this point we can take care of both.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next item for transfer station is we received, we had a bid opening in relation to our disposal, and we received 2 bids, first from Waste Management, the second from Twin Bridges Waste and Recycling. And we're currently with Waste Management, and it appears that I think in every category, they are the lowest bid for not only the proposal, but the alternate bids. What the board needs to decide is, the first bid was for 9 months and the second was for 21 months. My recommendation would be to go for a 21-month period, especially with world events that's going on, additional costs that may be involved for hauling. don't know what the board's pleasure is on that.
I think it's smart to look out longer than 9 months, for the exact reasons you said, because the cost of everything seems to be increasing at what seems exponentially, so I would support 21 months.
Okay, just for the, even though we have the bid opening probably in the record, I'll read through them. Proposal A, bid item was for 9 months, 42 yard container, was 175 per pole. For waste management, 237 by Twin Bridges. For disposal was $68 per ton, $77 per ton by Twin Bridges. The alternate bid was for 21 months, same size. Transportation was 190 per pole. Twin Bridges was 237. Disposal was $71 per ton with waste management. Twin Bridges was 77 per ton. And the 9 month for the 20 yard open tops for transportation, waste management was 175 per pole. Twin Bridges was 237 per pole. Disposal was $68 per ton for waste management, 77 per ton for Twin Bridges. On the alternate bid for 21 months on the open top, I guess that's, is that one right? It says one. It's like 20 cubic. Yeah. For transportation, it's 190 per pole, 237 with Twin Bridges. For disposal, 71 per ton, 77 per ton with Twin Bridges. On bid item 3, which was 9 months for 20 yard open top. For transportation, it was 175 per pole, 237 with Twin Bridges. Disposal was 68 per ton. For waste management, 77 per ton with Twin Bridges. And then final alternate bid for bid item 3 was 21 months on the 20 yard open top. For transportation, it was $109 per pole for waste management, $237 per pole with Twin Bridges, and with disposal, that's $71 per ton with waste management and 77 per ton with Twin Bridges. So, sounds like what I'm hearing is to go with a 21-month contract with waste management. Is that it?
That would be my recommendation.
I think it's good. Where you go?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, number 5, is Highway Department. Got the request to hire a laborer. We talked about this at the last board meeting and said that we would take it up again at this meeting. And this is not a line item in the highway department's budget. There's a couple of things I think that the board should be made aware of before we decide what action, if any, you would like to take. If you recall, we didn't do a line item for the specific position. We did have concerns about gas and diesel costs for 2022, so we bumped up the budgetary amount for that by 20,000. We also did that for road saw by 20,000, and we bumped up sand for 2,000. So we were up about $42,000 over and above what we had in the budget for last fiscal year. And we had a couple of issues that arose we addressed at the last board meeting and earlier this year. that were the result of actions taken in 2021, however, they impacted the 22 budget. And I asked that the board be cognizant of that. And if you recall, POs were exceeded on several occasions in 2021 beyond the authority that was authorized by a town board, specifically for diesel purchases and salt. We addressed those overruns at the last board meeting. And then also at the last board meeting, the town acted on a promotion of one of our employees down there that was not discussed at budget time, nor was it budgeted for. So you need to be cognizant of the fact that due to, I'm going to say due to actions on the part of the highway department, we have already expended $13,467.41 that we hadn't planned to expend in the 2022 budget. Now, if you move forward with the labor position per the negotiated contract that was approved this year, the labor 2 position begins at $18.23 per hour. Obviously, that would not be for a full year because we're already a quarter into the year. So that's approximately 196 days of 8-hour days. And that works out to $28,585. And that does not take into account health insurance if that person's going to need it. We've got some other issues that we need to be cognizant of. I mean, everybody's seen what's happening at the fuel pumps. Last year we spent, we purchased over 33,000 gallons of fuel, and that worked out to $72,000. We had anticipated fuel prices being similar to last year when we budgeted for fuel. And let's take a conservative number. If the number is going to be $2 higher this year per gallon, and I expect we're going to be well above that, that's $67,000 more that we have to come up with this year's budget that we didn't budget for. And God forbid it's $3 higher than what we budgeted for, and I think it's going to go well above that. You're looking at $100,000 in fuel purchases that we have not budgeted for. So at this time, I don't think it would be prudent to move forward with the hiring of additional labor at this time based on the information that I just provided. I don't know if any board members have any comments on that.
We don't have any at the current time. I mean, budgetary restrictions are pointing us in, potential budgetary restrictions are pointing us in the direction of not hiring. I would not want to move forward with a new hire.
I mean, at this point, I guess at least table it to let our highway superintendent look at their funds and money spent this year so far, what we got projecting out for what our potential cost could be, and see if it is viable in the money that we have. At this meeting, I'd be leaning towards at least allowing the highway superintendent to look at his budget and potentially bring this back up in 2 weeks. If there's a way for you to find and show that I think the supervisor does bring up some valid points of fuel costs that are going to be an unknown and some other expenditures. Obviously, I want to see the highway department have the correct staff to complete the job, but they're at a table for 2 weeks. The highway superintendent.
Supervisor makes a good point. In this economic climate, there's certainly a lot of uncertainties that the fuel is one of them. But fortunately, we had an unexpectedly high amount of sales tax money coming out of our budget this year. It's over $800,000 that went into the general fund. Now, the highway department is funded 100% by sales tax money. 2 or 3 months ago, the supervisor mentioned that we had that unexpected flow of money coming in. Now we have to look at where we want to spend it, what we want to do with it. I think there's no time like the present. We have over $800,000 of unexpected income coming in. I'm certain that we could probably take some of that and offset some of our fuel costs and also hire a new employee for the town highway department.
So you want to,
I am,
so we work with the supervisor or the, what, want to work with them?
it's with the highway department.
I think that was the action, was he was gonna come back, maybe with those thoughts, you work with them.
Is the board willing to look at getting the funding from that excess of sales tax money that we have? Because we did the budgets the last 2 years with COVID. We bare boned every one of these departments, and they all did a great job staying within their budgets because we didn't know what the sales tax money was going to be. So we went, these people put in for equipment, we couldn't do it. We just didn't feel like we could do it at that time with all the uncertainty with COVID. But now we found out that we really cut it down. We got this extra sales tax money. Let's go ahead and put it back into these departments where it probably should have gone to begin with, but we did. We did what we had to do at the time. So I'm saying, look at that sales tax money. Let's start putting it back into the departments when we can do it. It is fund a new employee. And if we need to take some of that money and put it into the fuel fund and do what we have to do to get these budgets where they have to be.
So hopefully we'll want to come in and then I'll be done. I've asked Clerk Jeffrey to provide you with the detail. I don't have enough information.
I
on
checked
it.
with them today, so it's only $100,000.
I understand, but I just like to see it in writing and see how it is against budget. So to end my point on this, I don't have enough information tonight, but it sounds like you do, so work with the highway superintendent. That would be the only comment I have.
Yeah, I would like to comment on the sales tax comments that were just made because I don't think there's a clear understanding of the budget process. Our budget relies on sales tax to fund our highway department. We're able to fund, without a highway tax, we're able to fund our fire protection services, where we eliminated a fire protection tax, which I think at the time was around $4 per thousand. We've saved our taxpayers well over $2 million since we did that under my leadership here. And the way sales tax work, and I don't, maybe all board members aren't aware of this, is you don't get a lump sum upfront. You get it reported monthly. And so our budget this year relies on approximately $3 million in sales tax revenue coming in. We have only brought in $649,000. So when you say you have extra sales tax, we haven't collected that extra sales tax, number one. Number two, council member Donnie wasn't on the board, so probably it would be helpful if I provided a little historical narrative on what happened to sales tax in our town under another leadership, which really, we have a former supervisor in the audience that I served with, and he did a phenomenal job of protecting our fund balances. And then there was a change in leadership, change in party that took over here at Town Hall. And back in 2012, we had over I'm just going to take the general fund, but obviously we've got other funds that have fund balances. We had over $2.7 million in fund balance. And by the time I took over, and most of the drawdown happened, before my predecessor, we were down to $814,000. It was wiped out. We were on a spending spree. Money went out the door left and right. I don't even think there was proper accountability. And I took over in 2018. And from 2017, when we had $814,000, I've restored it back to with the help of my colleagues on the board then and now, back to $2.8 million where it should be. And I think it's irresponsible budgeting to do budget amendments, number one, to do promotions, number two, to spend money on staffing if it's not necessary or not fiscally prudent under the financial times. So I don't support in this year's budget doing an amendment or using sales tax, which may be badly needed to provide necessary services to our residents later in the year to add a staff person when the department has been able to function for at least a year, almost a year and a half without that person. So, you know, I'm certainly willing to listen to, you know, any ideas on how we can fund that position, but you know, I'm not in support of it for this fiscal year with the economic conditions that I think we're going to be facing, certainly with inflation, certainly with the high cost of energy.
The highway superintendent here, Paul's here. How many less employees do you have now than you did 5 years ago? You've got 2 less employees than you did 5 years ago to take care of the whole town.
And we also have less employees in the building department, less employees in the assessor's office. We can go on and on, right? I just think, you know, our employees are rising to the occasion. We've got highly qualified individuals. They do a great job for us with the staffing levels that we have.
And the town is growing. More roads to take care of.
How many miles have they increased?
But the thing is too, I know this, I couldn't tell you the numbers, more miles than we've had in the last 5 years. But I can tell you we haven't got any less miles than we did 5 years ago.
So I look at
We need to save a
real
lot of
numbers.
employees to provide these services to our taxpayers.
So how many miles have we increased?
I don't know, we haven't decreased, so I think we should have the same amount.
So you don't have the information.
I'm not debating, I'm done debating.
Aren't you on the highway? Yeah,
I'm done debating.
oh, so you want me to get this information all the time?
You do what you got.
All right.
So what my comment where it was, I'll still, we can see where our budgets are, what we got for what we've actually spent at our line items. Obviously understand some of the valid concerns across the board on stuff, and we'll look at it and still present it back to the board in 2 weeks. So if we should sit on it, or if for some reason some of the funds we pull from different areas from the budget. I feel that we should at least take the due diligence to do that with obviously very valid new concerns. 2 weeks ago, my stance probably would have been a lot different than what's happened in the last 2 weeks. So I guess I'm looking forward to working with that, and Councilman Donovan, it's been on the highway.
Because we have had changes on the board, I think it's important that I point out that if you recall, we had to do a new roof to tune approximately $600,000 on the new highway garage. And when we were putting that funding together, we had been awarded a $200,000 state aid to municipalities grant, which we have yet to receive from the state of New York. So there's another $200,000 that we thought we were getting. Who knows if we'll get it? I wouldn't hold my breath for it. I still work to get it because they committed it to us, but you know, the money's not in our coffers. So that's another issue that we need to be cognizant of. So agenda item 6, Recreation Department. The last board meeting, we discussed the purchase of a utility. So go back to highway department or something. When the bid was I'm not prepared to take it up today because I have no recommendation from the highway superintendent, and I did not receive, the board members did, an actual packet of the bid documents, so I could read, compare, what each vendor had in their,
It came in late Friday, so I didn't put it out to everybody.
so I haven't reviewed it, so I'm not prepared to do that tonight. But if the highway superintendent wants to, make a recommendation based on that information, put it in a necessary form, we get it.
I'll have it for everybody for next meeting. I'll get everybody all the literature. I didn't put it out because it came in late Friday, and then it was way after the deadline.
Thank you.
Moving back on to recreation department, as I was saying, we had a request from the department to purchase a utility vehicle for recreational purposes or town rec property or town property general. And it was the board's consensus that we wanted to utilize capital reserve funds for that. As board members are aware and for the benefit of the public, when you utilize that money, it's subject to a referendum. And so there's certain requirements that have to be followed. Number one being a formal resolution that starts the clock ticking, that members of the public can, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for?
They can petition if they want to have a referendum on the spending the money.
Yeah, so we can't just go spend that money that's dedicated to the capital reserve fund. So what the board wanted to do is utilize that money, which takes us to this evening, where we have a proposed resolution to utilize up to $22,000 from our townwide recreational capital reserve fund. It currently has a balance of $320,122.39 as of February 28th. So I know the deputy clerk has a copy of the resolution. Would someone like to have her read that, and then we can move for a resolution to, or move to have it discussed. Sure. All right, so would you like to read the resolution? Would you like to? Yeah, we'll make a change after. Got it?
As written.
Yep.
Resolution, Town Board, Town of Morrow, subject, townwide recreational capital reserve fund expenditure. Whereas by resolution dated December 13th, 2011, the Town Board of the Town of Morrow duly established a capital reserve fund designated as the townwide recreational capital reserve fund for the purposes of funding the acquisition and development of lands within the Town of Morrow for recreational use, including capital improvements on lands presently owned, in fee or otherwise, leased or hereinafter acquired in fee or otherwise, or leased by the town, and to purchase equipment for use on those town lands. And whereas the townwide recreational capital reserve fund has a balance of approximately $320,122.39 as of February 28th, 2022. And whereas it is necessary for the town to purchase an XRT four-wheel vehicle for the purposes of use around the Harry B. Tar Recreational Park and the town. And whereas the purchase of this equipment falls within the purpose of the establishment of this fund, and whereas the town board, having deliberated upon this matter, now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the expenditure of funds not to exceed $22,000 from the townwide recreational capital reserve fund, a capital reserve fund for the purchase of an XRT four-wheel vehicle for the purposes of use around the Harry B. Tar Recreational Park and the town. And further resolved that the supervisor and or deputy supervisor is authorized to execute any documents necessary to effectuate the purchase identified above. And is further resolved that this resolution is made pursuant to the general municipal law section 6C and is subject to a permissive referendum as permitted by law.
Thank you very much. And so one of the whereas has reference to a dealer-specific vehicle, and obviously we don't want to do that. We want to make it generic. So I believe Councilmember Stewart has a recommended change for the third whereas.
For the third whereas, I'd like to make a change for the town to purchase a four-wheel drive utility vehicle. And also in the now therefore, for the purchase of a four-wheel drive utility vehicle, the same change. And with those two changes, I would like to move this resolution.
Yeah, and that's in place of the XRT / four-wheel. Is that what you want to do? Correct. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, discussion.
I think our discussion last board meeting had all the important topics of it. That we're absolutely in need of it for after the repairs from our club car. And that's why this fund was created back in 2001.
Any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Also on recreation department, just want to make the board members aware, we did have an employee that there was some vehicle damage to one of the vehicles down there. I think you have documentation on that. Approximately, I think just over $5,000 in damage that happened during the last snowstorm. And we're working with the insurance carrier on that to get it repaired. We also have, probably, rather than go into committee reports, we'll do it under recreation. I think we have some requests also in relation to community garden location. I don't know, you remember what the next committee want to talk about that?
I spoke briefly on it with the rec department. He recommended potentially somewhere over here on this property, possibly behind the old sheriff's substation, in that area. With everything else on the table in the last 2 weeks, that wasn't one of the topics that's been really discussed. I feel that we have time to table that for 2 weeks before we really have to worry about getting into any sort of garden growth. I definitely would take any recommendations from the other board members, but that's kind of where the conversation is currently at.
Okay, thank you. And we also have we have a request for a change in the operational days and hours of the Sandbar Beach. Anybody want to talk about that?
Good. So, obviously, I believe everybody's gotten emails. Let's talk about the hours of operation for normally opens on Memorial Day weekend, which is May 28th of this year. He is looking to adjust the hours, basically to save some funds. He's reported he's done the studies of the actual attendance. Trying to find it here. He's looking to operate the beach on weekends, being Saturday and Sunday, beginning on Memorial Day, and then going to a full 7-day schedule beginning on Friday, July 1st. By proposing this, he's saying that it should save the town approximately $7,000 in payroll, and this payroll could possibly be used to repair / replace known structural bathhouse issues, not structural roof issues, excuse me, I'll stand correct on that, at the bathhouse and all the other improvements at the beach. I appreciate him taking the time to do this. With the kids still being in school at that time, being tied up with the youth sports as he showed, and honestly, I probably would put it back to the personnel committee. I don't know how many lifeguard applications or staff we even have at this point on file or submitted, so it might be something for consideration, just because we might not be able to staff it currently.
This committee has a recommendation. Based on staffing powers.
Yeah, I was supportive of it, from my time on the board, and my observations. In the month of June, we end up scrambling to find things to keep them busy, because we're just not busy in the month of June every week. Weather could obviously impact it differently, it's a little bit unpredictable, but for July and August, it's a huge amenity that the town is highly dependent on, so I would not want to go past July 1st, but I was supportive of the recommendation. Whether or not we decide to use the monies for the recommendations is a different topic, not to be considered in this decision.
I agree. I think it's well thought out, and way to say, potentially save payroll and address our staffing issues.
I don't think we need a resolution on that. Do we?
No.
Okay, so we'll take that back to the rec leader. The last item for rec is the Forest Spring sports contracts that haven't updated that with the council, and we can review the board members have a chance to review those. So he's looking for approval and sending out.
And for you to sign.
So you need a motion.
Yes.
So does anybody have any comments on those resolutions as a draft? No comments. So yeah, the motion will have to be authorizing the supervisor to sign the 2022 contract for the four entities. You want to take it or not? Yes, please.
Yeah, so motion authorizing the department head to send them out, and the supervisor to sign the 22 agreements for the following four sports entities: Southlands Falls Girls Youth Lacrosse, Empire City Soccer Academy, Southlands Falls Youth Lacrosse, and Northeast Hurricanes Travel Baseball Club, pending final review and approval of council.
They're already.
They've been on review.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? That's good enough for your council?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I think that's, we covered everything.
Oh, last board meeting. I can update, yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, we didn't, so, at the last board meeting, we tabled a proposal from the LA Group for professional services for the Moreau Big Bend Trail Phase 1, which, if you recall, the town received a $200,000 grant.
Yes.
From the state, as well as several grants from Saratoga County. So you want to update us?
Yeah, I asked last board meeting to allow me time just to have a conversation with the LA Group. I wanted a chance to ask some questions regarding some thoughts they had on those items that fell outside the scope. But what became clear after having that conversation and reviewing the original proposal, those items are already covered under the grant. So it is presented in the proposal as it was written in the grant application, that we had approved them to take us through the process, and would be my recommendation to move forward with the proposal.
Okay. I do not know. Good. So I would entertain with that recommendation from Councilmember Van Tassel, motion to engage the services of the LA Group based on the proposal for services, professional services for Monroe Big Bend Trail Phase 1 that was provided February 21st of 2022. And for the record, consultant fees will be based on a lump sum fee of $33,300. And the scope of services are outlined in that proposal. Just in generic terms, task 1 was for field work, verifying the site's existing conditions, confirming design scope, and updating the base map. Task 2 was final trail design. Task 3 was permitting, which includes evaluation of the permits required for construction of the trail, including the State Historic Preservation Office, New York State DEC, including the Speedies permit, and preparation of the SWIP as applicable, and New York State Parks. And they outline the services that they will not include. So, was there a second one? You have a first on that?
I didn't get one. Your recommendation?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just a couple comments. I want to make sure there's clarity for those that are maybe new on the board, and Councilman Stewart got a large packet for them. The 3 phases in that proposal should not be confused with the 3 phases of the project. They're not related, but those 3 phases get us through the first phase, which is getting the trail system built. And again, we've already got folks' commitment, and then, if that goes well, we can go find some more funding, and there's those other phases that they presented. It's exciting to see us take advantage of that property that we purchased down there, and get that trail built and finish that project.
That's all good stuff. That's all I have. Oh, sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 7 is the Reynolds Road PUD. Board members received a copy an updated proposal from US Light Energy, and this is specific to proposal on Reynolds Road that the board that has been before the board for discussion as required by our local code. Once the town has been provided a copy of the PUD, and it has been determined that the application is complete by the zoning administrator, the town board is required at its next board meeting to forward it to the planning board for recommendation. Correct, is that correct?
Correct, and there's a representative from US Light Energy here today.
But would you like just to give a brief synopsis of the project?
I would love that.
If you can state your name for the record.
Sure, my name is Mike Fingard from US Light Energy, the Chief Operating Officer. I appreciate you guys making the time for me tonight on the agenda. I've been before, some of you before, I appreciate the opportunity to be here in person about our project site. This site in particular, we've been looking at for a few years now, originally targeted for a solar project due to its infrastructure. It was well suited, in our opinion, for a community solar project. And since that time, I think we've property and want to further that development. There seems to be a lot of potential for the site itself. However, I feel that some of the current zoning regulations might restrict this potential. So before you tonight, I submitted a planned unit development proposal with a proposal to modify some of that zoning potentially for your consideration that may unlock some of the potential of the site that we see. We are proposing a few uses. We're taking a step back over the last year. I know this has been part of the board before. Considering the community comment that we received previously and some of the comments that we got from planning board, which is where we stopped on previous proposals, taking a step back and submitted a conceptual proposal that looks at a few primary uses for the parcel. We split that up into a solar development area, a future development area, which I'll get into some of the uses, and a conservation area in the rear of the property. And as a community component, looked at an area for a community garden potentially. That inspiration came from the Recreation Department's master plan adopted in 2019. I recently learned just before this topic that there may be a different location in mind for that garden. In the plan itself, I didn't see one targeted, but I did see the need outlined or the desire to have a community garden as well as a funding mechanism for that. So I felt that as part of this project, that may be something we could assist with. So I felt prudent to approve that proposal. And as you see on the map, that's located towards the front of the building. Previous comments we received on the solar portion really, to me, indicated that it was more of a visual concern. So we pushed that to the west of the transmission corridor that we feel is out of view from neighboring properties and reserved the frontage for a future development area. And I've also learned from interactions with the town that one of the issues with planned unit developments may be getting it through and then not actually bringing those uses to fruition. So we purposely proposed a future development area with a few different uses that we've talked to potential development partners with near-term interest to bring that to fruition. So that's the reason for not identifying a sole use for that. We've actually broken it out into 4 potential uses, but again, of near-term interest of some of our development partners. And the reason for that flexibility is to make sure that if some of those uses were to fall out during the approval process, that we would have a way forward to make sure that was developed. That includes a residential component on the front, or it could be a campground, which I understand may have been in front of the board many years ago, potentially for luxury RV sites or a combination of seasonal rentals. I also think it has agricultural potential, as many community members have pointed out in previous discussions. And then lastly, we do feel that there is potential for a data center there. And before we get too down the path of details on that, it's just something that we feel could work in harmony with the solar array and only use a small portion of the project. I think with any of these uses, our goal would be to seek approval for any or all of them. And then once we had a final list of uses that were acceptable to the town, really work with our partners we've been speaking to again bring that to fruition for the best way possible. So that's a general overview of that. I don't know, it'll take up too much more of your time, but I would like to answer any questions you have.
Well, our role this time is to refer to the planning board. Obviously, it'd be premature for us to give, thoughts one way or the other until we hear back from the planning board. But does any board member have any questions, comments at this time? Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. So on the project, again, this is the property located at 65 Reynolds Road. It's approximately 203 acres. We're officially calling this the U.S. Light Energy Reynolds Road Planned Unit Development. Is there a motion to refer this to the planning board for review? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. So this will now go to the planning board, and they will provide it to town board as well as to you have.
To be clear, this is a formality, it's the case with every community, it always goes to the planning board first.
Yep, for our vote. All right, thank you. Thank you. We did vote on that, right, Barbara?
The motion was Mr. Van Tassel, seconded by Mr. Donahue. All in favor, yes.
We did vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I was getting you out of here before the vote. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is number 8, supervisor items. We have a couple of items. First one is received correspondence from Charter Communications. It says, dear municipal official, Spectrum Northeast was notified on March 2nd, 2022 by NBC Universal Media LLC on behalf of International Media Distribution LLC that it would cease distribution of CR1 Russia. Accordingly, effective March 3rd, 2022 at 12 a.m. Eastern Time, the aforementioned network is no longer available on the channel lineup serving your community. Since this change is out of Spectrum's control, we are making customers aware of the cessation of programming via a channel slate message. Quote, program is no longer being provided by the supplier, end quote. Further, in light of extraordinary circumstances in Ukraine, effective March 4th, 2022 at 12 a.m. Eastern Time, Spectrum made the decision to drop Russian control to the program networks TV, MTV America, RTV Planeta, Rosya 24, and CTC on the channel lineup serving your community. Spectrum is making its customers aware of these drops via a channel slate message. Quote, program is no longer available on this network, end quote. If you have any questions, you can reach out to Kevin Egan, Director of Governmental Affairs for Charter Communications. I have been working with a prospective purchaser for the Mount McGregor Correctional Facility, which you may or may not know is in 3 municipalities. Town of Moreau, Town of Wilton, and Town of Corinth. There's an entity which is looking for basically support from each municipality of the proposed purchase from the state of New York. The project would be provide a recreational paranormal experience, which I didn't know a lot about, but apparently these are huge draws across the U.S. So they do weekend socials. It's a big deal, which it was all news to me, and it was very interesting. However, I know the state of New York will not entertain a purchase that the local municipality typically is not in favor of it. So they're looking for, and the name of the company is the ADK Preservation LLC, Haunted Nights LLC. And they're looking for support from the town of Moreau, town of Wilton, and town of Corinth, as well as support from our assembly representatives and our senators in Saratoga County. And I said I would bring it to the board for discussion. Since I've been supervisor for the past almost 5 years, I've been involved with a number of entities that have expressed interest for many different purposes, and so far none of them have come to fruition. I'm wholeheartedly on board with any kind of group that's interested in purchasing that property and getting it on tax rolls. I would ask for your support in it and signing on to the support letter. It doesn't bind us to anything.
No opposition to that.
Sounds interesting.
Okay, so I support.
We don't need a resolution on that, right? I want to make the board and the public aware that local law number 122 was filed on February 9th, 2022 with New York State Department of State, which makes it in full force and effect. And this was the cannabis law that was adopted on December 22nd of 2021. So that is our first local, local law of 2022. Received correspondence from the New York State Department of Transportation in relation to the Route 4 bridge over the Hudson River in Schuylerville. Want to make us aware that they will be replacing that bridge. Says, dear supervisors, departments, please inform me that New York State DOT Region 1 is progressing the design of a project which will involve the replacement of Route 4 bridge over the Hudson River. Project also includes the reconstruction of Route 4 Route 32 intersection west of the bridge. It is anticipated that the project construction will begin in 2024. The reason that this is important is that it's going to redirect traffic through our town. It says during the portion of construction will be closed at the bridge. For this period, traffic will be detoured to Route 32, Route 187, and back to Route 4. During the closure, all properties and businesses in the area will remain accessible to residents and emergency responders. It is our hope that providing you this advance notice will allow sufficient time before work begins to resolve any concerns you may have regarding the project or the planned traffic control strategy. Towards this end, I ask that you contact me with any questions or comments regarding the project at 518-457-2067 or at the following address, Kelly Kircher, Project Manager, PE, New York State Department of Transportation, 50 Wolf Road, Albany, New York, 12232. We received, actually I received it at the county level in my capacity as chairman of the board, but all supervisors around the county received it as well. Correspondence from Lou Neals regarding the MS4 program. It was basically to get on our radar, both county and town governments. Some changes to the MS4 program, which are going to have a potential to have a financial impact on us as we go into the next budget process. Stated February 28th from Lou Neals, Saratoga County Cornell Cooperative Extension. And it's in relation to intermunicipal stormwater management program. Specifically, the EC Speedies 2022 draft MS4 permit and some legal concerns that he wants to make us aware of. Says on Wednesday, January 13, 2022, DEC announced the availability of draft Speedies general permits for stormwater discharges from municipal separate storm sewer systems, MS4. Program staff, through local representatives and contractors have been meeting bi-weekly since January 13 to discuss the draft, areas of concern, and approaches to written comments. During the course of these meetings, several issues have been raised that we believe you should be made aware of under the heading of financial impact. He specifies there's little doubt that the requirements of the draft permit will have an impact on MS4 budgets. Contained in the permit are various time-critical tasks must be completed on an initial or ongoing basis. Some will expire at the end of the first 5-year term of the permit, others will become a regular part of MS4 business. One estimate by the town of Patterson, which is down in Putnam County, indicates that the implementation of the first 5-year term will cost them $1.38 million and require additional 2,661 additional personnel hours, and 128% of one full-time equivalent. Complicating this is the fact that all local municipalities and counties must also comply with the local property tax cap. Also, the increased task cannot be accomplished by any single individual or position, necessitating multiple new hires for existing positions to work more than then under the heading of legal impact. Several concerns have also been raised regarding legalities of some of the required elements of the permit. For example, the third-party certification statement that is required by any organization, agency, or individual that is performing work on behalf of the MS4 under the permit. The group of Long Island Sound protection communities that function in much the same way as Saratoga County Cornell Cooperative Extension does for the ISWM program have serious reservations that they may be held responsible if any MS4 they work with fails to comply with the permit. This, they believe, and rightly so, would forcibly sever the protection committee's relationships with local MS4s, their work, and the support that they provide to them. This may have similar impacts on the ISWM program. Another concern is in regards to the MEP standard, which is the maximum extent practical. In previous permits, this has been a self-determined standard, which means the MS4 has flexibility to decide which measures were the most affordable, which were the most effective, and which were neither. The way that the permit is now written, MS4 no longer have that flexibility. And to wit from the fact sheet to satisfy the phase 2 remand rule and meet MEP. The draft provides specific requirements, timeframes, and methodologies. Also, the MS4 operator must implement the required controls contained in parts 3 through 9 Speedy's general permit. And the department expects that compliance with the terms and conditions of the Speedy general permit will assure MS4 discharges meet applicable water quality standards. In essence, what the DEC is stating is that the permit is the MEP, and this has never been the case that the permit is the maximum extent practical. Some more technical details which I'm going to skim over, but the bottom line states that at this time we feel that Saratoga County Board of Supervisors should be aware of these circumstances and possible future conditions. We also would respectfully request that the board begin to consider the use of existing legal counsel and the engagement of outside groups, attorneys, such as NICOM, AOC, et cetera, in the review of this draft permit. We believe that while our comments and those of our fellow groups across New York will reflect and spell out in greater detail the issue above, the DEC will not be taking them into consideration. Meaning this is the permit we are likely to get, and because of the reasons stated above and more, few if any small traditional MS4s will be able to comply with at least some of the terms and conditions of this permit. Therefore, we think it prudent to begin to explore individual legal defense for compliance shortfall and or group challenges to the permit writ large. Thank you for your time. Who's our deals? So that was sent to the County Board of Supervisors, and he also asked that each supervisor share it with their respective town boards. So there you have it.
Just when we got that program under control.
The controls of it.
All right.
So we, I know Council Member Tasso has provided board members with some information on cybersecurity. Just recommend if you have an opportunity to read it, that you do so. It's from NICOM.
Yeah, it was a workshop off the town, Association of Towns meeting, but it's very informative. Yeah, I think it's going to read it for sure. We probably will want this, a future discussion around action we might want to.
Okay. I think you can do that. So moving on, I received correspondence from Jim Martin, and it was as a result of the language of the contract that we have with him as town zoning administrator, that when he exceeds the contracted amount, he needs supervisor authority to do so, which I signed off on. But I just want to make the board aware that it says, Todd, due to extenuating circumstances, I'm formally requesting authorization for billable time for the contract limit of 12 hours per week. Specifically, the following factors are contributing to this request. 2 meetings last this week with the planning board and ZBA with requisite preparation and meeting follow-up tasks. The 2 meetings in 1 week was driven primarily by the President's holiday week. Preparation for the special meeting associated with the proposed biochar facility. Requested review of amendments to the town code, specifically chapter 124 of subdivisions. And finally, the above items in the context of regular service to residents coming through the door. So he was requesting additional 3 hours compensation, so that'd be a total amount of 15 hours instead of 12. And obviously, we did the work, and I approve it. So I'm going to make the aware of that. Have a memo from Jeffrey Cruz, a principal account clerk, HR director, and everything else that is necessary. That's in relation to orbital fire, and there's some, the potential for cybersecurity services. If you didn't get that, you want things?
I'll get the copy from Jeffrey. There wasn't a copy. Okay, from Jeffrey.
We also received the Monroe Landfill 2021 annual report, which is the Monroe Landfill post-closure monitoring report. I have it in my office. Anyone who, actually, yeah, all got a copy. Any questions on that, just let me know, we want to know if we have said any questions on it. If we don't, he's gonna submit the final report to DEC on our behalf a week from today, so a week from, I guess it'll be tomorrow, because this was dated March 2nd. So it'll be tomorrow, so if you have any questions, better let me know. Or submit something out. That's all I have. Just want to make the board aware that Jeffrey, our town clerk, is working on the AUD. The AUD is due by the end of the month, which is the 31st of this month. And it's almost complete, and we should have that wrapped up for next board meeting for board members to take a look at. Committee reports. Are there any committee reports?
I don't have any discussion. We have already discussed.
We're going to discuss.
I think we touched on the conversation.
One that we emailed on myself and Councilman Tassel would handle that executive session.
Okay. So we will need an executive session for the purpose of discussing the performance of an unnamed employee or employees of the town, and also to discuss contract negotiations in relation to transfer of 61. And do you need something else, or is it covered under that?
I guess. Yes, it'll be a employee issue. Employee with
So we're covered under the short history. Okay. So if someone would like to move forward.
I'd like to, out of respect for the people, the residents that we have here that like to speak, I would suggest that we move the privilege of the floor up before the executive session. And let these people speak, because sometimes the executive sessions turn out.
So we did that at the last board meeting, and what happened was it delayed the necessary action of the town board. I don't expect this will be a long executive session, so I'll still entertain a motion to go into executive session. So, all in favor? Opposed? All in favor? Passes. Okay, we'll go into executive session. Hopefully we will be out shortly.
You do? This thing turned on? I paused it.
Okay.
Is that Mark? You're all set on the,
Yeah, we're good. Yep.
Sure.
Yeah, it's recording.
All right. Okay, we're back in open session, and I would like the record to reflect that no action was taken in executive session, which now takes us to agenda item 11, other business from board members.
I only got one quick thing. So what is the anticipated time of the opening up in
End of 2020.
2023?
End of 2020.
Okay, that's what we got now.
Oh, I'm sorry, are we talking about Route 9?
No, we're not.
The other project? Phase two? No.
Current, right now, like, when we talk about.
I know.
End of this year.
End of this year.
Yeah, okay.
Somebody asked me that thing, stop.
So the contract requires that construction be completed by December 31st. All right, so at this time, we're at agenda item 12, which is privilege of the floor. Anybody who wishes to address the board, you'll have 3 minutes per resolution at the organizational meeting. Please state your name for the record and your address. And the first person is Mr. Shaver.
Thank you, Point Shaver, 9 Alley Drive.
Because we're zooming this, would you come up to the podium?
I can. I didn't think it was because of the microphone. But what I did here, I got my new water bill, and I'm not here to talk about the capital expense, it's the per gallon charge. I used 11,360 gallons, and I was charged for 18,000, so I'm looking to get that corrected. 11,360 at the $2.60 per thousand.
So you're saying the meter reading is inaccurate?
No, the meter reading's okay. I checked it. My usage was only 11,360 for the winter months.
Right.
So in the summer months, it'll be more. So in your,
Oh, yeah, the annual. Yeah, so we, so the annual, the intent of our code is for to have the annual usage at 36,000.
yeah,
But we have a note, it was changed today that because we bill biannually, the minimum usage is 18,000. Is that what we're talking about?
yeah, we need to change that.
Yeah, we changed it today when it was brought to my attention.
So you can already send bills out, change it just like that. You adopted this February the 25th. It said you can use 36,000 gallons
It's still
annually.
36,000 annually.
So,
But we're not billing annually, we're billing by, so to your point, the minimum will be 18,000 biannual.
but that's not what this says. This says 36,000 annually, and being that you're billing semi-annually, you bill the first bill for what the people use, and then the second bill for the 36,000. So it's 36,000 annually, I can use 25,000 for the next 6 months, which is gonna be used because it's summertime. What you adopted here is 36,000 annually. No minimum charge, no nothing. My bill is wrong.
I talked to the water superintendent and I agreed that it's accurate based on what we adopted.
Well, then you're both wrong.
That's your opinion.
No, it's not my opinion, it's what you adopted.
You guys the floor, sir.
It's what you adopted here. So when you adopt something one day, somebody says something about a bill and you just change it? That's wrong. How's the rest of the board feel about this? It's right here. It's right here in the minutes of the meeting. This is what you adopted. And you change it just like that? That's crap.
We didn't change it, we clarified it.
You changed it. It's right here. It's right here, Todd. No, it's right here.
You want to argue, but all right, that's fine. You can argue, but I'm not going to do it.
You know what? I'm not gonna argue. I'm telling you the facts. And you changed things just like this. Was the rest of the board involved? Any of you guys, are you involved with it? And how do you feel about it? You think it's right? Anybody?
You and I already spoke.
Right, I spoke with Alan.
You and I already spoke, and let's go to privilege of the floor, it's our chance to hear your concerns. It's not a debate back and forth, you've already know my opinion. So, do you have more to share with the board? I'd love to hear it.
Well, your time has expired, so.
Okay.
Well, I'm okay with my time expiring, but I'm telling you, you did wrong here. So you're telling me as a board that you're not gonna change my water bill? No. Rest of the board members agree with that?
I'm gonna chat with Todd after.
I think that you brought up a valid point during the floor, and there'll be other discussion on it. So, I mean, right, we don't debate it back and forth if that, I mean, I'm gonna have some clarification questions, you brought up the valid points, that's what the privilege of the floor is for. And now I'm telling you that if you brought up some valid points that I have questions to clarify in the minutes, but I don't have them in front of me, besides we're saying, I know what we voted on.
Okay,
To clarify,
okay.
and I know where you live and you're going, I will be more than happy to follow up with you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
I'll follow up with you too.
Thank you. Thank you. How are you, Kyle?
I sat on chat with Todd, I mean, I guess I can follow up with that if we get a normal conversation.
Yeah, we can do that,
Okay.
if you choose to, to do so. And Carly, can I ask, is that a deal?
I don't respond to the floor, I'm sorry.
Next in the. Thanks, Mark. Yes, ma'am.
That's all right.
I'm Michelle Mallory,
Yes.
so at 201 Fort Edward Road. I just want to clarify a couple things before you go on your 30-day following up with other communities in the area, what they're going to do with the capital cost and so on. So I believe we probably live maybe 1,000 feet, if not a little less, a little more from the fire hydrant. If and when we decide to sell our house, being more than 400 feet does not offer me any opportunity selling my home. I do have to pay the extra cost for the insurance. If I'm not available, if I'm not able to use water that is not supplied to me, I don't think we should be paying for any loans or anything that the community is taking out as well, the board. So if you decide when you're talking amongst the other communities that you're going to be charging us for the capital cost, I know that the three of us out of the 6 of us will request a water line. And I know that will be expensive for the community, but it's fair at that point. If we're gonna pay for water, we might as well have water from start to finish.
What was your address? I missed that.
201 Fort Edward Road. Yeah, so, just so that the whole board is aware of where it will go to, so. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is that everything I need to say?
Anyone else? Eric?
Very good, just a couple of things. It's interesting, you go into Saratoga with your sewers. When you did that study, was there any consideration about the whole village being part of the study? Is it something the village should have been included in? If it's attractive, maybe the village would have been interested in it. So it's just, I wondered how good the deal of Saratoga really is. So, and if so, the village is part of the town, maybe we would have looked at it. I couldn't tell in the back, is the county bringing the sewer to the town line?
No, the town is constructing it, the county is helping fund it,
County's gonna fund it,
help fund it,
and who's gonna own it and maintain it?
county,
Okay, yeah, from the town line,
from town line,
okay. And then I see, on one of the warrants somewhere in the minutes that there's still sewer money coming out of the A fund. Is that,
So I think we have to upload monies, but they're reimbursable through the sewer grant. But we haven't taken it in yet. So we have to expend the money in some instances. You're talking about the engineering? Which is,
I just saw Bill.
Yeah, I have to- if you give me I can look into it, I don't know what.
Yeah, I was curious because once the district's created, I thought the district would be paying their own bills. So I was surprised to see it on the general fund, which is the whole town.
Yeah, no, so the district will be made whole as well as the townwide.
Okay. And then the other thing was the bills. I got my first water bills in the town. And I appreciate you looking into finding, because I had 10 EDUs that wasn't in the district. And so that's been taken care of.
Yeah, it should have been, you got.
I got a letter yesterday.
That says you're not in the district.
Right.
Okay.
And I still got 10 more EDUs that I'm gonna be paying for, and I don't know how the rationale for how many EDUs for each property, well, it came about, but I've got a parcel with 3 EDUs, and the only way I could use 3 services would be have to put a road in. So I'm not sure how much benefit there is more than 1 EDU until you do some development or do something with it.
Is this for open land, vacant land?
It's all vacant land, yeah. And they've got another one with, 2 EDUs. And again, that's considered backland. There's a small strip of frontage, but I don't have 3 water services to, but still, when the district was created, I believe, I don't know if that was an ad valorem tax, if it was, I was paying for all those, everybody else's services, but I don't have one.
So, yeah, I can address that. When we, if you recall, one of the complaints that we got on the first couple tries for doing a sewer district, there was a lot of feedback from the public that said it wasn't fair to them if somebody who had vacant property derived the same benefit. And so we took that into consideration. There was I don't know the exact formula for it, but like 10% of the costs were associated with the acreage. So when we got down to the actual cost for property owners, through the map plan and report, we assigned with the first acre of any parcel, we assigned a half an EDU. And then with each additional acre, a 0.1 EDU was assigned to it. So that's probably how you got to the numbers. I don't know how many acres you have, but that's the according to the map plan report, that's how you got to the EDUs on vacant land.
I'll go back and look at it, but it's just, I'm not sure if it's equitable to pay when you can't build them until you put a road in to get to it. To pay more than one EDU, but that's where I'm at, and I'm probably now paying $560 a year. Never had water, don't know when I'll run the water. But it's like another technique.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kelly.
So I'm not sure if this is other business or.
No, this is privilege of floor.
My name is Pat Klein, 169 Brook Road. And a couple of questions for what I have for you guys is, now, we've had some time to digest the 3 years there as far as the solar project that we have, with the exception of Mark. And what we have is what you guys have digested so far with the project. We would like to do, our team, or as Boralex, we would like to do an open house and a presentation based on what you guys have digested already with the ag markets and NYSERDA. So, if any of you guys can elaborate right now as far as who you spoke to, or anybody that you interpreted from soil law with NYSERDA and ag markets. So that's it.
I haven't spoken with anybody.
I have not. I haven't spoken to anybody since we we did get some feedback from ag markets months ago, and I haven't spoken to them since.
Yes, so I spoke to Jason Mulford, and he had said none of the protocols are changing based on previous years, and right now there's nothing in plan to change any of those protocols. So, and I know you guys said you had some questions for ag markets, and now that it's going on 3 years now, I would like to try to get something going with the board and have an open house with a presentation there too for the public, so we can get things rolling here. So that's it.
Thank you, Pat. Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Brian Lowry, 21 Jackson Road Extension. Obviously, tonight you mentioned the problem area. Just to reiterate, Carla, just so you know, all the deeds that were on these properties say we have eternal access and egress. It's a small gravel road. My property is 4/10 of a mile from the blacktop. The closest hydrant is another 100 feet from that point. I talked to Mike Mooney he was unaware that there's no utility right of ways. And the property is right on the water's edge, the river's edge. The blocks were cut out many years ago before the water district was formed, and as I said earlier, when they drew the line for the water district, they never defined a surveyed line, they just used the water's edge to encompass it. In my 40 years almost owning the property, there's never been any municipal water, nor has there been fire protection. Just so you know, they're having no right of way to the property, and there's all wetlands. We researched that about 25 years ago, and at the time, the town engineers decided we needed a 6-inch line and a couple hydrants to afford fire protection. And between having no right of ways and the Army Corps of Engineer wetland permits, DEC permits, it was just improbable that it was going to happen. The last fire we had, the fire company, luckily with their pumper, they had a water thief. They took it out of the water. The fire was suppressed very quickly. It's not an issue. Most of the properties down there have all drilled wells. We have one individual, a city man, who thinks that we own the road and have a utility right away. We do not. But he's insistent that he wanted water, and he also insisted the town take care of the road. We tried to enlighten him to the fact that that's not the case. So having said that, I know you guys are looking at the problem, and I have yet to talk to the rest of the neighbors. I have entertained counsel, and she said, just go talk to the board and see what they have to say. It's not the idea of the $28, it's the principle. And I realized the water line is just, it can't be put down there. Mike Mooney proposed putting down a drill 2-inch line, a directional drill. It's not going to solve the right-of-way problem. And a 2-inch line is not going to afford any fire protection. Not with all the properties that are down there. Having said that, I know you guys are looking at it. I appreciate it. I know you made the right decision.
Well, thank you, and I will comment, I'm not surprised that the utility right-of-way was never secured, because I can tell you, as we were working to put in or obtain the right-of-ways for our sewer project, the water main going down Route 9 was inappropriately put in without right-of-ways. And we cleaned that up in that project, but I'm not surprised.
We explored it 25 years ago. At the time, a 6-inch ductile line with 2 hydrants was cost prohibitive then. Even now, an HDPE 6-inch water line with 2 hydrants, I couldn't even begin to tell you. I put water line in for 30 years. I couldn't even begin to tell you what it would cost if you had the right of way. We do not. That's the defining fact in this case.
Okay.
So people, it's nice to see, I've been here my whole life as a resident. I recognize one guy. So anyways, thank you for listening.
Thank you.
And when is the next meeting?
It's the second and fourth Tuesday of each month.
Second and fourth.
At 7 p.m.
Okay, so you probably have a decision by then.
I hope so. I have a list. If I don't have a decision, I got a lot of people to go.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Any other individual wish to, you already had the floor, Michael.
No, you got one, where's that rule?
That's my rule.
That's your rule, you seem to have all the rules just by yourself, there's other people in this town, you know that? I just want to reflect for the record, or like you're talking now.
They keep talking. So
Like, hey, I'm gonna talk.
I'll take most of it.
Yeah, you know what? $7 a thousand we're paying with your fees if you introduced everybody, Pat. That was over $7 a thousand. It was $2.70 a thousand. You're ripping the people off. Keep smiling.
You want to talk about ripping people off? How about when you work for the town?
Let's,
Yeah.
motion to.
That's sarcastic. You wanna go talk about it? Come on, we'll talk about it.
Entertain a motion to.
I have one more thing.
Yes,
Let's still looking for a solar workshop. So we can, hammer out our differences and bring this thing to conclusions. I know you don't want to move forward at the time, maybe the rest of the board.
Oh, I listen to the public, and that's why I have to respect their opinions.
The rest of the board?
I've already gone on record when Mr. Stewart, or Councilman Stewart's had a chance to get himself up to, let me finish. Councilman Stewart's got himself up to speed, not to put pressure on. I'd be very open to having some further discussion. That's my position, I haven't changed.
I put it on the minutes last meeting that I would be ready for this month to catch up. So I am caught up as, I think, as much as I can without going back to 3 years reviewing the current plan. So at that point, I said that in the last meeting on the record that I would be here, so we need to further discuss.
I'm curious, but wait, just to talk about it, we've had a few workshops, and haven't gotten very far. What would you be running a workshop?
But I'd be more than happy to.
I'm just,
I'd like to see a workshop that Mr. Kelly suggested. You know, we had the guy in here from the UT on Reynolds, make a presentation. Maybe we could have some representatives of Mr. Killian's company make a presentation, and we can ask them questions. Maybe we could find somebody from Max Park, somebody from NYSERDA. Somebody from NYSERDA offered, I remember this before COVID hit. They offered to come in and make a presentation, answer any questions we got. Because of COVID and stuff, that got put on the back burner. Maybe, you know, the supervisor's office could reach out to NYSERDA and reach out to Ag Market. We could set something up and have everybody in the room answer all the questions. Try to hammer out our differences. We only differ or disagree on 3 or 4 points. We should be able to get all the information we need, and any additional information from like I say, NYSERDA, Ag Market, and hammer out some kind of decision. I think it's unfair to the residents in this town who've spoken for and against to not move forward with this.
So I'll reiterate for the record, you know, we have spent a lot of time discussing the proposal. We had a draft local law that received a lot of input from people on all sides of the issue, some in the middle. And I thought it was a good compromise, and quite frankly, Councilman, you're the one who said that you didn't want any restriction on agriculture. That doesn't tell me willingness to compromise. But what became crystal clear to me after all that conversation, people were throwing out, what about property rights of these people? What about property rights? What about the people that would live next to a solar array? Nobody's taking that into consideration. And I've said on the record, I have a fundamental problem, and I think it's poor government to change zoning to benefit a handful of people that will benefit financially at the detriment to a majority of the town. So I don't think it's good policy.
To say that it doesn't benefit people, it's going to benefit people in general. Going to solar energy as compared to fossil fuel. I mean, this is the thing of future. Is solar energy and alternative energy. And I think we have a responsibility to be part of that.
So I'll entertain a motion to do
if I just may real quick, if you, JD, can line everything up, I will listen, I'll be part of the discussion. I think, you know, I've learned a lot from when there was some digging that went on to try and get some information. So I guess, you know, I have shared how I feel with 2 people, and I'm sure that's been shared around. So, you know, when I saw you, would think there's a whole bunch of people on both sides of this that you would want to make sure you can get in touch with and find out availability. And then maybe get back in touch with the board.
Yeah, and I think that, so I had a grand stuff I sent you and Ellen and Mr.
Yeah, and I appreciate
And I gave you
that.
both sides of it. I didn't give you just one side.
Right, and I think that was a good part.
I think that's what we have to do is look at it from every angle. And come up with some kind of compromise. I don't think anything should be etched in stone. I think there should be a compromise, and we should be able to sit down and figure out what's best and give a little on each side and do something that's best, as best as we can for everybody concerned. And I think that goal can be reached, but it won't be reached unless we sit down and have these discussions, discussion.
Well, you know, there have to be genuine conversations. Councilman, as you're intimately aware, I brought up some context in my conversations with Ag Markets. And lo and behold, you received correspondence from Ag Markets that essentially show that I was accurate in my comments about my conversations with the department. And interestingly, you didn't include me in any of the conversations or the feedback that you received from Ag Market. So it's clear you don't want me to be a part of this project because I was accurate. So how do you have genuine, how do you have genuine conversations if, you know, you don't want to have a real conversation?
I didn't share it with you, Todd, because just like tonight, you made it crystal clear that you did not want to follow through this unless it's on your terms. And I'm working
It's not
on
my terms. That draft was put-
Don't interrupt me then. I didn't interrupt you.
That draft was put together by a majority of the board before it went to the public.
But the only way we're gonna come to a compromise, and I think compromise is what we should be looking for. The only way we can come to a compromise is meet and share our ideas of what the compromise might be. But to sit here and just not have a workshop, just ignore it, say you don't want to follow through, which is definitely a disturbance to the residents of the town. So I think we should set up a date for a solar workshop.
We've already had one. Public has spoken.
The public did speak, Todd. I don't know who you were listening to. But I
People
think,
that are most impacted by it, that's what it's.
oh, those are the only ones that matter. Everybody else in town doesn't matter. You even said at that meeting, it was interesting too. You didn't tell the people in the village that. They have to
They're not
become
impacted
residents.
by it.
They have to become residents who have an opinion on what goes on in the town.
It was only changed for the.
But once again, I'd like that as a debate now. I'm just saying, I think we should set up a solar workshop and sit down, hammer out our differences, one way or another, and bring this thing to some kind of conclusion. It's been going on 3 years now.
I would think, based on your relationship with the city of Glens Falls and your position, that you would be more concerned about globally benefiting the town, and trying to work to come up with a viable agreement with the city of Glens Falls rather than taking the city's position on it. That's why I think we should focus rather than something that benefits by property.
All right, so,
The rest of the board should decide whether they want to have a solar workshop or not.
I guess that's where I think we heard from three of us now that there's one of the sets, who we want to bring in for this, for the workshop here.
I think you know.
I think it's that, we're already past this one at this point, so I think we have our attention on that to get the due diligence of what we want to present, and take it to a workshop after that would be the next step around.
That sounds like a fair compromise.
So besides that, I would make the motion to adjourn if nobody has anything else.
And I'll second.
Roll. All in favor?
Aye.
We are, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bathroom shut down.
Even better.
A little late for that.